One of my goals has always been to bring science and the paranormal together. Paranormal is just science undiscovered or misunderstood.
Every time I keep asking how good can it get, this prompts the participatory universe to provide us with answers that we genuinely do want to live the answer to.
Hello, my name is Christopher Anetra. You know me as the Quantum Businessman.
And I say, you know what, I don't need to know where I'm headed. I thought I knew where I was headed before and I didn't end up there. So why worry about where I'm headed? Why not just accept this now moment, trust that whatever guided me here with you guys that I feel is divine is going to continue to guide me.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the International Mandela Effect Conference Green Room episode, specially for our Patreon members. You guys are absolutely awesome, and we really appreciate you. We've got a heck of an episode for you guys today. It's going to be a pretty long one compared to the other ones. We're going to be talking about twin strangers, clones, doppelgangers, and the such. There's been a lot of information coming to light lately, and some stuff we've stumbled on that is very interesting, to say the least. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Cynthia here. As you guys see, we've got Cynthia Sue Larson, Christopher Anatra, and Shane Robinson here with us. Cynthia, you are the main one to put this deal together. What do we got?
Well, today, the title says it all. We're looking at this topic of clones, doppelgangers, and, what's going on? Twins. So I think sometimes over the years, I've gotten a lot of emails. I don't know about you guys with reality shifters. People write to me and they say, Cynthia, something weird is going on. Like every job I get, there's always this person that looks like this. And they send me a photo and I'm like, whoa. And then they said, look, here's the person that I work with now. And there's like three of them. It's like there's always this little group of these three people that look like this. What is happening? I don't even know what to say. So, Chris, this is going to be Chris. I'm so glad, Chris, that you're with us today, because this is a topic Chris has delved into better than I think anyone I've seen. Certainly, I think of our team. So let's go to our next slide and take a look at where we're going to kick this off.
Speaking of, by the way, I worked at a lot of restaurants in my time and public facing elements, and I've seen a lot of faces. And something I noticed when I worked at the last restaurant, there was this one face. It'd be different girls, completely different girls. It was always a female, but I've seen 19 variations of this exact same face. And I pointed it out to other people who have also validated that I'm not insane, at least not in this fact. And they are seeing the same thing. So I don't know if it's a lineage thing, but there's one typical face I keep seeing over and over and over. I don't see it on these slides, by the way.
Well, it's even weirder when it happens to you. I've had people tell me, like, are you so-and-so? It's only happened like twice. And fortunately, they were really happy to see me. I mean, because just think how badly this could go. Like, if you look like someone that's their arch enemy, or like, it's you, But fortunately, it was like, oh, it's my best friend. It's like, you're not hurt. Like, no. So it's only happened a couple times. And then I've had other incidences where people swear that I actually did do things I know I didn't. That's a whole other category. But it ties into the Mandela effect big time. And we're going to get into that today. But before we do, I'm just talking about this website, twinstrangers.com. So if you're watching this and you want to find out, is there someone that looks like you? You can actually find out now. You can submit your photo and let the service do the hunt for you and find if there's someone out there. I think some of these individuals that are shown in the picture found themselves synchronistically. The two gentlemen on the far right were on a flight. I think they were going to Europe. They met on the plane, and then they accidentally checked into the same hotel. You can see the guy in the background on the airplane. He's pointing because he's getting a kick out of it. Like, they don't know each other. Like, they look like twins. And then the dudes in the middle, they met. One of them was on stage in a club in London. The other one was in the audience, and they were looking at each other like, wait, what? And then the ladies on the left, that's twin strangers. So they found themselves on that website. They look like twins.
Yeah, so the question is, are they long lost twins, or is possibly something else going on? And I think these are like really good questions to ask, because I think the world is getting ready to be able to accept more and more about the way the reality works. And yeah, this is such a fascinating subject, I think, for me and for all of us here that are like going to like be tuning into what's going on.
Yeah, just because we're just kicking this off. This is the normal slide, by the way. This show is going to go a lot weirder. So on this very normal slide, people that I've seen checking DNA, you can do the DNA tests these days. And on twin strangers, they're finding they are sometimes related, but distantly. So I think they were suspecting, is this a case of like a twin separated at birth, but not so far. Usually it's been much greater distance, but there are genetic commonalities and similarities.
And this just goes to show that out there in the world, there are doppelgangers. This isn't like a weird thing as far as being fringe. This is something that's happening a lot more often than people realize, right?
Yeah. I'd love in the comments if this has happened to you, either you've seen the repeating pattern, like everywhere I go, there's this one person, or if they're telling you, like, you look just like so-and-so that they know quite well.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out too. So, the global narrative uses the word doppelgangers, which is like a way to explain like what this is. So my thought is that how like the global narrative will say that the Mandela effect is misremembering, and they kind of file it away. Yes. So are these twin strangers or whatever, are they doppelgangers, or is there something more? And like, we're going to get into the whole concept of cloning and how that works in different clone batches. So something to keep our minds open to, is it possible that they're from the same series of batches of clones? Because is that possible? So this is like super fascinating. I think you guys are really going to enjoy what we have to say. So.
Oh, no doubt. Let's move on to the next slide then in that case. So we've got a lot of people out here who look like different celebrities. Now, a lot of people have heard of Bob Joyce. And this is a preacher that has been known to look, sound, and act a lot like Elvis Presley. This on the screen, of course, is not Bob Joyce. This is a man that has been told that he is a dead ringer for Robin Williams. And before we get into the discussion, let's go ahead and pull this video up and let you guys kind of hear and see what we're actually talking about whenever you are ready.
I make a video without people comparing me to Robin Williams, and that man brings a damn tear of joy to my eye. I love him so much, man. So I'm gonna do a little Robin impression for y'all, okay? This is Robin Williams talking to me about swimming with the alligators. Let me see now. Pappy, you swim with the alligators. If you get attacked, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's a grand adventure. I don't know, man. Go easy on me. I'm just tired, man. I practiced a long time for that, man.
I don't think he practiced that long.
That could not have been a more perfect Robin Williams voice. If I didn't know any better, I'd think that was. And his facial features also match Robin a lot.
And even the personality a bit, the charisma and just the way that he carries himself. I know he's in the water, but in other videos and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll add too, some people have looked at his face and studied the birthmarks on his face, including a mole that he has on his cheek. And I believe that they say that that mole that he has on his cheek is not on Robin Williams, but the birthmarks match exactly. Like, there's a birthmark on his chin. There's actually a few on his chin that match Robin Williams exactly. So when I think of the birthmark, you know what I think about, or like the mole, I should say, reminds me of Marilyn Monroe. Remember that Mandela effect where you've got the Monroe piercing on the lip, and then all of a sudden there's like other photos of her, and her mole or beauty mark keeps moving around on her face.
It's moving, yes.
So is there possibly a connection related to that, and how to tell? Like, birthmarks are one thing that would be part of the DNA structure, but would the mole something else, maybe a way to tell between different models or versions? But I wanted to say that for myself, when I tune into Uncle Pappy, like I keep getting the same signature frequency as Robin Williams. So I'm like, how could that be? Because Robin Williams, if he was alive today, would be 74. And Uncle Pappy looks a lot younger than 74, right? So how could this be? is it possible that there could be some kind of technology where the consciousness of an individual could be placed into a clone? And I'm going to say that I feel that that's actually a possibility. I think that cloning is much more advanced than we're allowed to know about. And as we go further into this, we can talk more about these different concepts, because now we're talking about different timeline versions of people, the possibility of clones of people. So it might start to get a little confusing, but it's still, I think, is going to open our minds to like what some of the possibilities are, the way this reality works.
Well, we know that that has been one of the goals of the elite for a very long time, is to be able to transfer their consciousness into a digital form and then back into a human form of some type. So it's not so far off the mark to think that they may have made strides in this, being that this was one of their stated goals.
And this goes way back. I think even all the way to Egyptian times, there's been that intention to not just the afterlife, but looking at the longevity of people and like how to carry that consciousness into another body. Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other things too. I sent the group some other emails about Uncle Pappy,
Yes.
And then Robin Williams. This is interesting because I saw this video online and then I looked it up myself and I just started to tie all these things together. But basically, Robin Williams, one of the parts he played was Popeye in the Popeye movie that came out. I think it was 1980, like a long time ago. And in that Popeye movie, he finds his father, whose name is Pappy. And there's this whole scene about them looking at each other and trying to figure out, is this really my father? And Pappy's trying to figure out if it's really his son. So I think like there are all these clues, including Uncle Pappy talks a lot about Hank the alligator that lives in that pond. And there's actually quite a few cartoons of Popeye where Popeye is always dealing with an alligator. So sometimes he rubs the belly of the alligator and the alligator like falls asleep, and then the alligator will attack Popeye and then rubs Popeye's belly and Popeye falls asleep. It's all kind of funny, but there's always featuring like an alligator. So, and then there are other clues too. Like to go further with this, I'll just say one more thing, just because our time is limited. Do you guys remember Jeep Jeep? Like he was like one of the characters. He had like a big, like almost like a dog character, but he had like a big nose, and he was also a magical creature who could biolocate and travel through time. And Jeep Jeep is the one that helped Popeye find his Uncle Pappy, or the father Pappy. So like there are all these like little like clues that we get. And then there's also the concept of, okay, if clones are being made, who's making these clones? Is this a government thing? Is this something else? And then there's the whole concept of different corporations that are outside of base reality that are controlling these type of things.
Yeah.
One of the corporations is the Monarch Corporation, and some of you may have heard of that from like Project Monarch and that type of thing. And there's always clues. And Heather, I don't know if you have it easy to bring up, but there's a picture of Robin Williams with a monarch butterfly. Because they're always giving clues. And when you look at some of the other clones too, there's a way you can tell who's who. So, all right, I'm not sure if Heather has that.
In the meantime,
yeah. Well, she's looking. She'll let us know if she has that. But let's go to the next slide, because this is some really cool stuff. We're going to move away from people for just a moment.
I was just going to say, we know that cloning isn't as crazy as it may actually sound, because it turns out, has been a lot of clones over the years. We know about Dolly the sheep, right? We all have heard of Dolly the clone sheep. Looks like she's working on something. There's that picture.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is from Patch Williams. But yeah, it's Robin Williams with a monarch butterfly. And there's always, these corporations are always giving clues as to who owns that model avatar. So, and then there's other very famous model clone avatars that I tune into that also will have the monarch symbol to show that they're part of Monarch. One, Katy Perry is a famous example of one too. She actually has a Monarch brand, it's not a tattoo, it's like a brand of a monarch on her. So yeah, so keep these things in mind as we continue.
Katy Perry, who actually supposedly went to space the other day.
Oh yeah, thank you, Heather. Here's a picture of her butterfly brand.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Wow. That's different.
That's really strange.
Yeah, I called when those celebrities went up into space, I call that clones in space. Because I don't think the real Katy Perry would want to take a chance, or any of these other people, like send the clone up or have the clone do like a performance. Oh, that was the other video we could show.
Yeah.
Heather, there's another Katy, that's from one of Katy Perry's performances, but there's another video of Katy Perry when her clone was malfunctioning with the eye.
Yeah, that one right there. In Vegas of all places. If anywhere there's going to be a clone, it's Vegas, right? As many shows as they have to do.
Yeah, notice she keeps touching the same spot, trying to get the eye to open up again. She presses there.
I mean, the cloning is very advanced, but obviously it's not perfect. And the way they do it with the AI, they put like they'll take like an overlay of the person, and then they'll use an AI to put like an AI overlay over the clone, so it acts and should react like the actual person. But then it's not perfect. It's not perfect, and they will glitch out. And there's so many examples of that.
Now I realize some people at this point will think this can't be real. They can't really be doing any cloning, but that's our next slide. Yes, cloning is real. It has been happening. I think it's illegal in the United States, but you can see here, there's a report from Newsweek. I cloned my dog. Now, interestingly, you see the subtitle, they have completely different personalities. And then you got Barbara Streisand. She lost her dog, Samantha, but she had it cloned twice. It's very expensive to do this. I think some people are celebrities and people that have money go overseas to get these services performed. The dog on the far right was not exactly not like a purebred dog, but it was a very effective hunting dog that had phenomenal abilities to smell things. And the owner really wanted to get a dog like that because it was irreplaceable. So in that case, that's the dog Sydney. And so it's interesting the reasons people would do the cloning. I don't know why Barbara wanted to clone her dog. You can love your pet, but it seems a bit weird to me to clone a pet. To me, they're irreplaceable, but interesting. And I think Barbara Streisand also reported in an interview that the personalities are a little different. So just because it's cloned, she was expecting it'll look like her old dog, Samantha.
And let's be clear, they didn't clone it as a 3-year-old dog, right? They cloned it from a puppy and had to grow back into.
Right. Thank you. That's right. Next slide. Let's take a look at the next one. Now we get into what's going on with news stories that we're hearing about on the cover of Time magazine. This dire wolf, they've crossed out the word extinct, and you can see a picture of what looks like a wolf. And then the 2 puppies with the Game of Thrones, because the guy that was behind sponsoring the whole project, I think is the author of the Game of Thrones.
George R.R. Martin. Yep.
Yeah. And so he's excited that these are dire wolves coming back. And they kind of sort of are. On the left, you can see genetically engineered de-extinct species projects involving the woolly mammoth. And here's kind of the process that they're using. They don't necessarily get the full DNA strand to work from because they're working with ancient, long extinct animals. So the DNA is a bit damaged. It's not fresh. And so then they're splicing it together with something similar like an existing elephant. And then when the splicing is compared in the genome, they look for differences and try to kind of fix it up. It's kind of like make it a custom-made, in this case, a custom-made woolly mouse. So they're on the way to creating the woolly mammoth and starting with a woolly mouse.
I've heard this story
Yeah.
before. Where have I? Jurassic Park. That's where I heard this story before.
And it goes so well, right?
Well, I mean, it almost gets into that other show or movie, which had a video game called Resident Evil, where the underground lab was tinkering with genetics and created some pretty monstrous things, you know.
Oh, the bio dogs. Yeah, those things are horrific.
Yeah, but I mean, just messing around, there's no telling, flipping switches on and off in DNA, what could possibly happen, you know?
I'm not personally that keen on all this. I know Elon Musk, I didn't read what he posted here. He said, please make a miniature pet woolly mammoth. I hope not. I mean, I'm not really a fan of this. It seems very dystopian to me. That's just my take on it. I'm not really a big fan.
I mean, I've said for years I want to walk around with a stegosaurus as a pet, so that's just me.
Like Dino the dinosaur from the Flintstones.
Exactly.
Okay. So now the people who are a little skeptical, just like, I'm not so sure about this. Let's go to the next slide, because now we're going to get into cloning people. Is that happening? Yes, that is happening. That
Not
really
only has.
Yes. And now we've got archival footage here. There's a clip that we're going to look at, and this will be discussing. It's this lady that we're looking at here. It's from a company called Clonaid 23 years ago, talking about the cloned baby named Eve. So let's go ahead and play this clip.
Wow, they actually exist. This is really bizarre. It's like a site that was abandoned in 2009. Found this from CBC on their archives. Let's take a look at this.
Very, very pleased to announce that the first baby clone is born. She was born yesterday at 11:55 a.m. in the country where she was born. So this will not give you more details about the location. She's fine. We call her Eve between us. I thought that this press conference will be with the baby, the parents, the scientists, everybody surrounding me, and having pleasure announcing it. I'm alone.
Yeah, why not?
And there is a reason to that, is that
Why?
it hasn't been easy to face the world with this announcement. And we have been discussing with the parents the last 3 months how we would handle today.
There is more on that, and that was an interesting discussion, but it's just showing proof of concept. It's actually been proven, and it's been proven for decades now. And that's absolutely, I don't think it's been followed up on. I don't know what's happened to this young lady named Eve.
I think for most people that it's not like a huge jump to imagine that cloning is possible. It's just hard to imagine you could take somebody like the president and clone something and then age it all the way up to the age. So that's kind of, I think, the big jump for people, which it sounds like they do have some kind of technology like that, possibly.
There are people that say that the government does have it. It's one of those reverse engineered technologies, apparently, and so it's not coming forward. It's not out in the open, but it does exist. Apparently.
But it's like the reason for the glitches, probably.
Yeah.
Right. And it would explain why they did this big push for everyone's DNA a couple years ago to get new sources for clones, possibly, or testing material at best.
Yeah, and I think there's soft disclosure about how clones are made nowadays in shows like Westworld, like the more recent one. Like, is it possible that clones could be produced within 24 hours by a type of 3D printing technology? So that sounds way out there, right? Like totally like that's not possible. But is it? Because I believe that there's so much technology that we just don't think it's possible because we've never learned about it. We just don't know. So, and I think it goes beyond like the governments. I think it's fallen into private corporations. Like there's corporations that'll do this. So this gets really deep, especially with some of the next slides where we start talking about the timelines and how that's
works. Yeah, let's go there. I'm just thinking we got to dive right into this. Let's go to the next slide.
One of the most popular examples of this we have covered ourselves here on the Mandela Effect Conference, and that is the Challenger astronauts that seem to have a life here on the Earth from what we've been able to find. At least they've got some pretty good doppelgangers, if it isn't them. Chris, you did a lot of work into this, correct?
Yeah. So this was one of the first things like that I was trying to illustrate how there's different timeline versions of us. and how based upon certain choice points that we make or nexus points in our timeline, the timelines can branch. So in one timeline, Judith Resnick, who's the astronaut all the way to the right, she made a decision that she wanted to go into law. And she went to Yale University, studied law. She became a judge. Now she teaches law at Yale University. Nothing to do with NASA. Nothing like there's no trace of that at all. But she appears to be a doppelganger for the Judith Resnick that was on the Challenger. So some people try to NASA's being deceitful and all that. I think in this, that's not the case at all. I think that there actually was other timeline versions brought in because of who these beings were. Like these were not normal humans on this flight. Like I see them as being what I call like founders or like dragons or beings that were here that were meant to be on the graduation timeline to get us to, some people call it the fifth dimension. I call it game level 5 or however, basically get to the next level, to graduate to the next level. They do things behind the scenes and they needed to be here. So Earth brought them into this timeline.
I'm just blown away that there are so many such similar matches here. That's the part that's so stunning. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah, and if you
Next slide, please, while we're talking.
Yeah, if you look at their birth dates too, a lot of their birthdays are the same or like 2 or 3 days off. So it's like, that's curious too, to show that it's not because maybe the mother gave birth, something happened 2 or 3 days later, or whatever the deal was. So
yeah, let's go to the next slide, please, Heather. Yes. Okay, this is where we're pointing out the birthdays like you're talking about, Chris. These are Chris's slides, by the way. So everybody that's interested in this, please go back, watch the Revelations IMEC 2020 talk. That was June 23rd. Oh, today's the 23rd too of April, 5 years ago. And Chris does this entire excellent presentation. And I love these questions. How could the Challenger crew have been killed if individuals alive with the same names, nearly similar birthdays, and similar appearances exist? They've got these careers. It's like they're on different timelines entirely, like a lawyer. They've got complete doppelgangers. And as you're pointing out, Chris, it doesn't look like NASA would pull off this big a hoax.
yeah, and if they did, remember there's that movie called Capricorn 1 with I forget what his name. Anyway, there's a movie about like they went to Mars.
Yeah.
But they didn't really go to Mars, and they had to kill one of the astronauts so we wouldn't leak the story out. The same kind of thing. If that really happened, would NASA allow these people to just go back into the public?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense either. So there are all these questions.
Very strange. And we got another slide on this.
Oh, O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
O.J. Simpson was in Capricorn 1 of all people.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Okay, next slide. We're going to continue with the thoughts pertaining to this topic about Challenger. This is getting to the timeline paradox, which is the heart of this excellent talk. This is where, Chris, your work just shines. So maybe you could run us through this timeline paradox.
Yeah. So how do these paradox events work? I refer to a timeline paradox with the phrase of can't be, but somehow is. Like it doesn't make sense, but yet we have the evidence that's in front of us. So these are some of the things that I was talking about previously. But basically, when I tune into it, there was a version of those astronauts that did indeed die on the Challenger, and then timeline shifted. The whole dead and alive again kind of concept, and here we are and that, for me, this becomes a classic Mandela effect.
It's pretty mind-bending. I think we're just observing a moment of silence.
Let it all sink in for a minute.
Yeah, what it has to make you wonder if it's just we notice it because they were more public figures, and this is something that might happen quite often. It's just people are almost looking for conspiracy here, and then they see this, and it could be a completely different reason than what they were thinking, some NASA hoax, right? They just happen to notice what people don't normally notice.
Yeah, I think it does. I think it does happen more often, and I think even some of us, I'll just say for myself, I think I've died before. Like I was in a near-death experience in a car crash many years ago. I shouldn't have lived.
Show of hands if you've gone through a death experience. Me too. So show of hands. All four of us. Okay.
So, yeah, are those type of things possible where all of a sudden now we're in another timeline, or we were brought in, we're alive again, so to speak, but
Right.
in another timeline we actually did die, like
Right.
Cynthia. People ought to remember you dying, right?
Yeah, that was super cool. I was grateful to be able to hear from people around the world, and that's I cover it in my new book. So
And it
people haven't heard
coincided
about it.
with the time that you were
Yeah.
sick, so
Yes,
there was that
and I
temporal
was
connection.
exactly, and I could talk to the guy that wrote to me, Steve Busher, an author, and find out when before telling him anything. I found out from him, when did I die? How did you find out? What was the cause of death, et cetera? He answered all those questions. Perfect match, and other people came forward too. Very interesting.
That gives me chills every time I think about it. That's the
We've got. Let's do one more slide here because this is this. If people are wondering, how would we know if someone was cloned? If this technology has been out there for a while, who might have been cloned?
Well, we've seen examples all the time of like pictures of a guy that looks identical to Jay-Z back in the 1920s, or Nick Cage's doppelganger back way when. Perhaps they weren't doppelgangers, but direct clones of these people.
So we are talking about different things here today. If people are trying to, each topic is kind of huge. The cloning is huge. The doppelganger is huge, and we're bringing it all together. So maybe it's a little.
And some people think of that as like possibly a reincarnation sort of thing too.
Right.
Like that was a previous life of Jay-Z, opposed to like a clone. So there's a lot of things to consider when you think about all of this.
Right.
Yeah, like literally, it was like another life of whoever. Like with the Eminem clone, by the way, letter M to me stands for monarch model, but that's just me. There's a bust of a Roman emperor named Alexander Severus that looks exactly like Eminem, like with the hair and everything. So you see this over and over again, where like perhaps those same models of an avatar are used more than once throughout history. So that also gives us the clues.
And some people bring up time traveler. I got to say that because it's another Mandela effect concept, time travelers. Some people look at old pictures and say, well, maybe Eminem was time traveling. Is that outside the range of possibility? Could it happen? I don't know.
I mean, as we get closer and closer to what could be the invention of a time machine, or at least the public acknowledgement thereof, you would more and more wonder how many celebrities or elites already had this information or have been testing or using this technology, if it exists to begin with.
Well, the cloning does exist. So I guess what you're saying is if the high tech version of it,
if time travel exists.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
That's undefined. It's possible, but it's undefined. We know cloning exists. We know doppelgangers exist. Time travel is possible, but
and one other thing that we had mentioned in emails was that, when you have identical twins who have identical DNA, they're not the exact person. I mean, they'll have little differences. So you can't expect that a clone would be the same inhabitant inside of the vehicle, so to speak, right? It would just be a difference in the consciousness that's indwelling the being, right?
But that's kind of what the big question with all this is like separating the appearance from like what's inside, the consciousness that we are, the true being that we really are, which is more than the DNA, more than whatever the body, the meat suit might be.
I believe the Redbeard guys actually had like the same wife name, the same child name, the same dog and dog name. Like there were a lot of similarities between a lot of these doppelganger stories that are
yes,
intriguing.
Those are all the clues. All the clues for us to figure out. Absolutely.
So any closing thoughts here? Yeah, let's go around. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say we will figure it out, because like the way I see it, we're all champion gamers and we love this. We love these challenges. Let's figure this out. So, and in Act 13 of Symphony of Realities, which I filmed last week, and Heather is going to be putting that together. I get into this subject too. So you guys should like keep a watch out for that, because I'll present some other things too that you might find interesting.
Nice.
Jane?
I'm just interested to get on this Find My Twin website. I'm afraid I'm going to get on there and find like a model of like 8 different versions of me out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I'm a model. I'm like model 2358 or something.
You ever see like a repeating number that doesn't make any sense to you? That could be your model.
Yeah, maybe I'm 1111. Huh?
That's funny.
I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. If that's the case. So I did actually go on, I think it's Family Search something or other. It's one of them that's suggested when you type it into Google to look for your doppelganger. It's one of the many sites you can go on. I put my picture on there. I get like a 30 to 35% match with anybody. So I don't have any that they've found yet. I did also used to work in a hotel where I had many people tell me I had a direct clone or doppelganger or something over Salt Lake City. So I've been told I've got twins across this country. Different I think this is fascinating. Like I said, I've seen the different people with the same face so many times. There's one face. I can't get over it. 19 variations I've seen of this face, but it's the same structure. It's so fascinating. I know this is a real thing. I know this is something that's wildly fringe at points. Yeah. Doppelgangers, I'm for. Cloning, I'm going to be honest, I'm more scientific based. That there's not enough evidence for me to say that these are direct clones of adults. Now, if they're growing clones from childhood and training them to be a certain way and this and that, maybe. Definitely a fascinating topic, though. Perhaps they're pulling clones from other timelines.
That could
Perhaps that's why they've opened the timelines, is to pull in others like themselves. I mean, there's so many what ifs here, ladies and gentlemen. But Cynthia, last word.
Just love to know how good can it get. And if you guys are watching this and you've got ideas, how good can this get? Share it with us, because we're going to be creating and imagining a new world. Love to hear from you. Love you so much.
Thank you so much, our Patreon members. You guys are absolutely amazing. These shows are just for you guys once a month. Make sure you enjoy. And we hope to see you guys next month. On behalf of Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence, Christopher Anatra, you know him as the Quantum Businessman, Cynthia Sue Larson of Reality Shifters. I am Jerry the Dark Wolf Hicks, and this has been the International Mandela Effect Conference Green Room. Until next time, remember, together we go, together we grow. Bye, everybody.
Love you.